Your buddy just got his third tattoo. Your coworker's showing off a new sleeve. Your entire social media feed is guys posting fresh ink. Meanwhile, you're sitting there with completely blank skin, and somehow you're the weird one. But here's the thing. Choosing to stay tattoo-free isn't some boring default setting. The psychology behind it is actually way more complex than people think. Over 46% of millennial men have at least one tattoo, nearly half. But while everyone analyzes why guys get inked, almost nobody talks about the guys who don't. And their reasons? They reveal something pretty specific about how certain men process identity. Let's start with the obvious one: permanence. But before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Most men will sign a 30-year mortgage without flinching. Marriage? Sure. Kids? Absolutely. Talk about permanent. But a tattoo on their forearm? That's too permanent. The psychology here is actually fascinating. It's called future self-continuity, and some men have an unusually hard time connecting with their future selves. They literally cannot imagine being the same person in 20 years. To them, getting a tattoo feels like making a decision for a stranger who just happens to share their body. And honestly, they might be onto something. Studies show that male identity, especially around interests, values, and self-image, can shift dramatically over decades. That tribal armband you thought was sick at 22, your 45-year-old self might have some thoughts. Men without tattoos often score higher on what psychologists call temporal discounting awareness. Basically, they're really good at imagining future regret before it happens. It's not indecisiveness, it's forward thinking. But here's where it gets even weirder. Some men without tattoos have what researchers call a fluid identity orientation. Sounds academic, right? Here's what it actually means. These guys see themselves as constantly evolving works in progress. They don't want to lock down any part of their identity because they're not done figuring out who they are. And here's the kicker: they might never feel done. Think about it. A tattoo is a statement. It says, "This matters to me enough to make it permanent." But what if you're the kind of guy who finds meaning in not making permanent statements? What if your whole approach is staying adaptable, changeable, free from past declarations about who you were? There's actually a concept related to this called identity foreclosure, when you commit to an identity without fully exploring who you are. Men who avoid tattoos sometimes worry about closing off future versions of themselves by making permanent choices now. But plot twist, this isn't always healthy. Some psychologists suggest it can indicate a deeper discomfort with self-definition. Not always, but sometimes. The line between staying open to growth and avoiding commitment to anything can get pretty blurry. Now let's talk about something most guys won't admit: social calculation. Despite tattoos becoming mainstream, there's still this subconscious cost-benefit analysis running in some men's heads. Will this affect how I'm perceived professionally? What will it signal about me? Can I control the narrative once it's there? And here's the thing. Men without tattoos tend to be more aware of how they're being assessed. They care about managing perception. And permanent body art feels like giving up some of that control. Research shows that men who avoid tattoos often engage in what psychologists call impression management. They're strategic about how they present themselves. They see tattoos as a variable they can't adjust once it's locked in. But let's be real for a second. Is this wisdom or anxiety? Some of these guys are being thoughtful and strategic. Others might be limiting their self-expression because they're too worried about external judgment. The psychology here isn't good or bad. It's just revealing about how different men navigate perception. But there's one more reason some men skip tattoos that nobody talks about, and it's actually kind of profound. Some guys view their blank skin as a conscious choice, not a lack of one. There's this whole philosophy around keeping your body as it came, not from fear or judgment, but from genuine preference. It's almost like minimalism, but for your skin. These men see their unmarked body as a form of simplicity, a rejection of the need to add external symbols to express internal meaning. Psychologically, this relates to something called intrinsic identity orientation. the belief that who you are exists independent of any external markers. These guys don't need a tattoo to remind them what they value or who they are. They carry that internally. And there's something quietly powerful about that. In a world that constantly screams, express yourself, stand out, make a statement, choosing not to participate is its own form of defiance. But, and this is important, this only works when it's a genuine choice, not a rationalization for avoidance. The psychology is completely different, depending on whether a man is choosing blank skin or just avoiding marked skin. Here's something that'll mess with your head. Some of the most grounded, self-aware men you'll ever meet don't have a single tattoo. And that's the paradox, isn't it? We've created this cultural narrative that tattoos equal depth, that ink equals meaning. But meaning doesn't need a medium. Some men experience profound connections to ideas, people, and moments without needing to mark their skin. They're not less attached, they're just differently attached. There's actually research on memory processing. Some people internalize meaningful experiences by living them fully in the moment, not by creating permanent reminders. Their memories don't fade because they lack a physical marker. If anything, the internal processing sometimes makes those memories sharper. You don't forget your father because you don't have him tattooed on your chest. The absence of external symbols doesn't equal the absence of internal meaning. For some men, that's just how they operate with everything that matters. So here's the truth. The psychology of men who never get tattoos is just as complex and valid as the psychology of men who do. It's not about being boring or scared or stuck. It's about future thinking, identity fluidity, social awareness, and sometimes just a different philosophy about what it means to exist in your own skin. And maybe that's what makes this so interesting. We spend so much time analyzing why men do things, why they get tattoos, why they make certain choices. But sometimes the absence of a choice reveals just as much as the choice itself. Whether you're covered in ink or completely blank, the most important question isn't what you choose. It's whether you're making that choice consciously, authentically, and for yourself. Because at the end of the day, both paths are just different ways of answering the same question. Who am I, and how do I want to show up?